we have Michael Gitsis from Quadcode with us. Michael is the Chief CFAO, basically, Chief Financial and Administrative Officer of Quadcode. And we know that Quadcode has relocated over 260 employees in this past year. Michael will tell us all about it, from relocation to integration, employee CJM.
Thank you very much. Okay, so indeed our talk is from relocation to integration, the CJM, the customer journey mapping. In our case, is actually the employee journey mapping, and it's quite have been like a very stressful year for us following the war. So a little bit about myself. I'm the Chief Financial and Administrative Officer. I've been with Quadcode for the last 4 years, started as the CFO. In the last 2 years, I also oversee the HR and the office administration functions. But from my basic, I'm a certified public accountant, and I started as a financial person in the financial field. And I also relocated to Cyprus 4 years ago, like probably many of you. Just to check, raise your hand, whoever relocated recently. Guys? Okay, 50% relevant audience. Amazing. So a bit about our company, about Quadcode. So we are a fintech company that develops our own trading platform. We pack it as a SaaS solution, software as a service, and we license it to brokers, to financial institutions, so that they could in turn acquire retail clients, so that retail clients could invest in any asset they want. Through the brokers that we work with, Quadcode overall has over 150 million accounts and clients that have traded on our platform from around 170 countries, and keep counting. In order to support all of that, we have around 700 employees and service providers all around the world, spread in the 5 offices that we have. One of the unique things of Quadcode is our substance both in SaaS and brokerage. So not only that we develop our own platform, we also have a brokerage activity. So we work both B2B and B2C, and not many companies in Cyprus do these 2 activities together, and we are one of them. It's a great opportunity for any employee in any field to work with us, because they have the ability to enjoy both of these fields. A bit about our last year. So you said 260, it's already 270 and keep counting. So yeah, almost 300 employees have relocated in the last year, mainly from Russia to Cyprus, along with their family members. We are talking about 500 employees. And yes, we have also pets as well. So guys, as if we relocated an entire zoo to Cyprus recently, and it's not easy. So we can open a zoo. Just tell me where you want it, Limos or Larnaca, anywhere. A bit about the life cycle. So mostly we talk about the business life cycle, which has ups and downs. Here I want to talk about the employee relocation life cycle. So we all had our ups and downs, at least the 50% that raised their hands. We started, of course, from the low 1 year ago when the war started in Ukraine. We, as a company, also had a major operational risk. We had problems financing the activity, the development activity that we had in Russia. A big catalyst for the stress was the partial mobilization that was introduced. And we, as a company, we had to make some choices, and we decided that we need to move our tech hub from Russia somewhere else. Since we already have been here in Cyprus with our brokerage activities from 2015, we knew already how Cyprus operates, and eventually taking many parameters into consideration, we had to choose between Cyprus and other places. And of course, eventually we chose Cyprus. I will talk about the parameters that we took into account, but eventually I think many of you know that the government incentivizes and develops the tech industry and provides a lot of incentives both for corporates and for individuals to relocate to Cyprus, to migrate to Cyprus, to get a lot of tax incentives. But not only tax incentives, it allows also now the spouses to find job opportunities with less barriers, so that they can integrate well into the community, and also to be able, not only to work but also to socialize well through the workspace environment. And of course, back then we looked at the cost of living, which we found appealing in Cyprus, and the medical and health system and the education system that were quite well established. And of course, the possibility for all our Russian employees eventually to get a visa and a passport in Cyprus. So that was quite appealing, and all the programs that the government introduced helped us to do this decision and eventually to relocate all to Cyprus. And then from the lowest low in the war, our employees were at the highest high. They were hyped. They relocated to Cyprus. They ran away from the war. They felt safe, of course. They had the security. They felt valuable because the company decided to take them as well as their families and relocate them. The company accompanied them, of course, with a strong relocation package and helped them to establish themselves during the first months after the relocation. And we all know that there are, I don't know, probably you know that there is a big Russian community in Cyprus, specifically also in Limassol. I think that approximately 30% of the civilians and residents in Limassol are Russian speakers, so they felt very, very comfortable in this environment. And we also have the great increase of the IT community here following the recent years. So they were hyped. However, following 2 or 3 months after the relocation, suddenly, you know, as you see the garden of the neighbor, and you think that it is green, or when you came to Cyprus just for vacation and you imagine yourself that everything is wonderful, once the 2-3 months are over and they need to live on their own, another situation has occurred and they become stressed again, and we call it the realization moment. At that point, suddenly a lot of challenges started to appear. So, one moment. Yeah. First of all, the cost of living. I think all of us feel that or felt it in the last year. So the cost of living, the housing prices, everything has increased, not only because of the global situation. Okay, we had inflation all over the world, approximately 10%, but specifically due to the big migration, the housing prices almost doubled in Limassol. This is, by the way, one of the reasons we have decided to transfer our tech hub to Larnaca. We have done our analysis and we saw that it will be easier both for us as a company and both for the employees to establish their living there. During the last year, the government was not ready to acknowledge and to receive all of this inflow of migrants. So migration department and the banks were quite overwhelmed, and it took a lot of time for our guys, for our employees and their family members to get the visas. And of course, we as well, from the HR department, had a big inflow of requests, which was hard to accompany. And education, for those of you who have kids, due to the big inflow, some of the education centers didn't have any space left. So our employees had tried to find something, and eventually they even moved to another city just to make sure that their kids have a place to study. If we continue with our realization and the stress, some of our employees who used to use the public transportation in Russia came here and eventually saw that they need a car to commute from place to place, and the traffic increased. They encountered some language barriers. They saw that their English level perhaps is not suffice to integrate into the community. One of the things that I have felt in the beginning 4 years ago, I was worried that I was not worried about myself because I go to the office every day and I'm quite in my workspace environment and I communicate with my colleagues. However, my wife sits by her own at home, does not communicate with anyone, and she has a lot of language barriers. So this is also one of the challenges that we saw with the spouses of the employees. And eventually, if you cannot integrate well into the community, you cannot find enough entertainment events, and cultural events that you can join and socialize. So it also made our employees even more stressed. So among all of those 6 reasons to be stressed, and who of you with raising your hand had at least one of those? Okay, so quite well. Who had all? Who experienced all of those? Okay, some of them. So sorry for that, but eventually, yes, we encountered all of those as well. Looking at the Maslow pyramid, and if we look at from that perspective, prior to the relocation, our tech guys have been in the upper level. They were productive, they fulfilled themselves, they were the best version of themselves, and we quite enjoyed it. Unfortunately, following the war, we find ourselves much lower. So, of course, all of us, we want to be safe, we want to have the visa so that we are not illegal in Cyprus, right? We want to have an affordable housing. We want to socialize well, and only then, once we have all of those factors, we can try and actually start fulfilling ourselves as well. So currently we are quite in the middle and we have some way to go. And this is one of the biggest challenges we have now following this year. So thankfully, we are no longer in the bottom. So 1 year has passed and we think that we are quite in the middle between the bottom and the next high. And this is where we want to go. We want to fully integrate into the community. We want to start as a company also not to consider ourselves a Russian tech hub, but to consider ourselves as an international tech hub, to start integrating with the local software developers, with the local product owners and managers. But that's not an easy task. We have several things to do in order for us to do so. One of the things, we can start from the internal development inside our company. So the things that we do in order to be able to integrate completely is to make sure that we have inside our company the infrastructure to do so. So we need to make sure that our level of English is sufficient for us to communicate properly between ourselves, not to have communication gaps. We conduct a lot of courses now, we enhance the language, we shifted our mindset in terms of communication inside our company. We even started to do the technical documentation in the English language rather than Russian, so we prepare ourselves for the next level. And of course, we conduct a lot of courses to teach our employees and colleagues how to work with different cultures. So there is a big gap between the Russian culture, the Greek culture, the Israeli culture, where I come from. So we teach all of them how to do it properly so that we know to communicate better and to be more productive and efficient altogether. One of the things that we also do following the relocation, we attach to each relocated person some relocation buddy, somebody that will go next to them and help them integrate into the community, answer all of their questions. And another major part, so you were talking about fear before, is the psychological help. So we understand that this step, especially following the war, is something that is very difficult, to comprehend. So we do provide psychological help not only to the employees but also to their spouses, to their family members. It's not an easy task to do. It's not for us. It's for the other whole, okay. Once we have done that, the internal development, we need to go to the external collaborations. This is something that we plan to do in this year, and once we are prepared to work with the external community, we need to make sure that we will be able to employ local and Cypriot and Greek and English-speaking software developers, product owners, product managers. One of the problems that the entire community has is that companies, in general, I think, they tend to hire only middle and senior software developers. Almost no company is willing to invest into juniors. So one of the things that we want to do is to make sure that we employ local specialists by collaborating with some universities. We want to go and implement some kind of courses that come from our side that will teach them the most up-to-date technological stacks that are being used, and what is being used in practice, not in the theory itself. to make sure that we prepare them for the future so that we can integrate them later on in our challenges that we have. One of the ways to do it is, once we do the collaboration with the universities, is to make an internship program where we can take the graduates and pass them through several months of internship where they try to see how the work is actually being done in real world, and eventually integrate them into our working cycle and the development cycle. So this is one of the greatest challenges that we're gonna have, especially combining the internal and the external as well. But one of the major problems here is, even if we do all of that, we still have the basic needs that we need to solve. And this is something that cannot be solved by us or by a specific company by itself. It is something that the government and the private sector, the investors, need to take care of. The government has done a great job by bringing all of these talents to Cyprus. However, if the government or the private sector don't do anything to make sure that the basic needs are being supported and provided to our employees and to the tech talents, eventually they will leave Cyprus. I'm talking about housing, education, hospital, infrastructure. We need to make sure all together as a society, as a community, that these needs are being answered. And my message to the government and to the private sector is that we are here to stay, guys. We do not leave. We will not leave. So we have talked with some investors for education centers or real estate entrepreneurs, and when we told them that we want them to build more, we want them to increase the infrastructure, they told us, hey, but you are here only for half a year. I know you will run away from Cyprus whenever the war is over. So my message is not, we are here to stay, guys. Thank you very much. We'll be happy to answer any question.
Thank you, everybody. Michael Gitsis. Michael, I have a question.
Sure.
So Social Discovery Group has been through a very similar challenge. Thankfully, we managed to actually increase our EBITDA throughout all this chaos and mayhem. What are some of the things that you wish you would have done better in primary relocation phase?
I think we miscalculated that the inflow would overwhelm us and the government. So we made some mistakes, but not increasing our team sufficiently enough, so that a lot of our employees felt as if they are not being taken care of enough. Although all of our HR teams were working around the clock, and the migration, I know, worked around the clock, so this is something that we could have done better, but we could not anticipate it. So this is something that I would...
Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you for the speech. I'm also from HR department from Right Company, and we relocated approximately the same amount of people and the same amount of pets even, but it's not a zoo, it's mostly cats and dogs, but still. My question is about the governmental relationships, which you mentioned. So do you see any real ways how companies, like we are the same size of companies and many other companies are here, how we can really interact with the government so that they can hear us and react, because this SIGA thing sometimes like make you crazy. Yeah, they say, okay, we'll do it tomorrow. They doesn't do it for I don't know, months or something. So do you feel any real, let's say, I don't know, path or connection how we can really like hear each other?
Yeah. So thank you for that, and well done for the same process that you have passed as us. I see several ways. One of the ways that we do is not only that we are a fintech company, we are also a brokerage company, and we are regulated by CISEC, by the Cypriot SEC. And this is one of our channels that we can approach, right? They're related to the government. Another channel is Tech Island, right? The organization that takes care of all the initiatives of all the technology companies in Cyprus. So we are members of Tech Island. We collaborate with them. We also participated in the panels that they did in Reflect Festival. So Reflect Festival, for example, was one of the stages where you can actually pitch your ideas and your desires, and we did it all. So I participated even in a panel where all companies like in our size were pitching to the government, and in the audience there were officials from the administration, from the Cypriot administration. So this is one of the ways, and of course we can use the media, to make some fuzz. So eventually they hear it. We just need to push more.
Michael, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Michael Gitsis, everybody.